So that was the intro part. It was all the projects that we are working on. I hope that you're all right and ready to work hard, because today we have quite an interesting topic. So we are talking about choosing a resource for primary education sector. And namely, we'll be looking at how teaching and learning in primary school can be both interactive, involving, and meaningful. So over to you. That was me talking for like 15 minutes. Now it's your turn. Please, in your chat boxes, could you share how you choose a resource for primary students? Because primary students are like a different type of animal. So they're unlike any other sector, so different from secondary, upper secondary, adults, students, and choosing a right resource for them, again, is yet another challenge. So could you share your ideas of how a good resource should be chosen? So pictures, audios, and video. YouTube. Okay, so that's something extra when we talk about a resource like a textbook. So a course, student's book, activity book, teacher's book, so cartoons, okay, videos. So colorful, yeah, that's important, definitely. Some interactive tools, okay, bright videos and games, agree, videos are important. Interesting tasks, yes. Age correspondency, that's important, okay. Music, funny, good. Pictures, songs, okay. Vocabulary and video games, systematic, very good point. Okay, now some characters, good, authentic. Cartoons, good. Okay, so all the right ideas, all the great ideas. So these are some essential elements of having a right resource for the primary sector, because this type, this age group is completely different from everything else, and they need special approach and special skills to them. Now, today I will share some 3 aspects that I pay attention to when choosing a resource for young learners. I'll be happy if you share your ideas on this one. And then if you feel like adding something, that's most highly welcomed. So let's get started. So success in primary. So I've decided to choose like 3 tools, 3 doors to a successful process, educational process in a primary school. And well, for me, primary school is all about literacy. That's the very important foundation that we implement and that we start in the primary school. So unless a primary teacher, English teacher, builds this foundation, teaches the alphabet, teaches some basic writing skills, spelling, reading, so it will be completely terribly messy, difficult, outrageous to deal with that in years 5 to 11. Unlikely when in primary school everything goes as planned and this foundation is nice and solid, then the work of secondary school teachers becomes much, much easier, because all the skills and all the techniques are built in this age. So that's very, very important. So that's why I decided, okay, so let's have a look how a resource builds this literacy, how it all starts. So Fly High Ukraine, some of you know the resource, and some of you know that, okay, questions about Facebook page, I'll repeat it at the end. Back to the resource. So some of you know Fly High Ukraine, some of you don't. I'll just show you something unbiased that just catches my attention. So Fly High Ukraine, and well, starting with literacy, that's starting with year 1. So as you know, in Fly High Ukraine, we have this oral course, something that the ministry says, пропедевтичний period. So that's when we prepare our students to literacy. It's not that we don't form literacy or we don't form writing skills. We just don't learn and don't teach the alphabet at this stage, and we don't actually teach writing, but we fine motor skills we do develop at this time. Why is this like this? Because students go to school, they are 6-year-olds, and we pour onto them 2 types of alphabet, Latin, English, right, and Cyrillic, Ukrainian. And that's like mixing 2 systems, and it's a mess, it's difficult. And Fly High Ukraine, unlike many authentic resources, has these literacy aspect has the alphabet incorporated into the book. This is not common for authentic resources, as lots of students have their original first language as Latin-based alphabet, so they don't need to learn the Latin alphabet separately. We do, and that's important, and that's something I pay attention to. So after 6 modules of oral course, we do start teaching the alphabet, and again we do this part by part. So we start with 3 letters. We have 2 alphabet letters devoted only to letters, so that's when we concentrate on letters, recognition, writing, producing them, practicing them. And then we have another block, another topic, another unit devoted to certain topic where we do develop listening and reading and writing and speaking and learn vocab and grammar structures, but also we practice the letters that we've covered. And then we add more and more and more language to that and more letters to that. And so that's it. That's how it's built. But when we talk about this and this literacy aspect, and when we look at this, so this looks like a proper young learner's resource. Big letters, not much text, lots of pictures, colorful, bright. But it takes a skillful teacher to understand how to work with this. For these are 2 lessons. Okay, so I have 2 exercises in 35 minutes. How do I do with that? And that's where another aspect of a successful resource comes in handy. So with Fly High Ukraine, then another aspect for me, a really, really important one, is actually having a personal assistant. And at this, I'm talking about, well, it would be nice to have a human assistant who's able to help you with discipline, organizing, reorganizing, etc. But that's not quite possible right now. So I don't know teachers who have personal assistants in their classrooms. Maybe some have got, and that's fantastic. But here it takes either your experience and knowledge where you know and understand how to work with this one exercise or 2 exercises in one lesson, or it takes a teacher's book, a good teacher's book that serves as your personal assistant and that can show you what can be done in that very lesson so that you don't spend time working and thinking, okay, so what do I do? How do I review? Which game should I pick? You have a collection of ideas and then you just choose what applies best for you. And you have some certain ideas that were picked up for that lesson for you. So basically, when you talk about personal assistant in Fly High Ukraine, that's having me and my colleague Svetlana Sorochinska as a personal assistant, because while working on the teacher's book, we sat down and we wrote lesson plans as if they were for our own lessons. Well, honestly, for my own lessons, I don't write lesson plans like that. So that was trying to do the best and to include everything. So let's have a look at how it works. So that's a lesson, right? 2 exercises, 1 page, colorful, bright, nice, but how to spend 35 minutes on that. And actually, if you have a look into the teacher's book, that's the lesson stages that are included into the lesson plan. And that's how many different stages are covered in this one lesson. And when we think about the book and these 2 exercises, so they appear only in 2 stages. Everything else, that's either you having experience or you having an assistant that suggests how things can be done. And well, having experience is great, but having a colleague, a friend who can share ideas is also great. Okay, I won't be demonstrating all of them because that will take a lot of time. And I know that you have plans for the evening and some better things to do. I agree with you, Oksana, that 35 minutes is not enough. But, well, some of you have stronger students, smaller groups, and can work more intensively. Some of you have more hours. Some of you have extra hours. Sometimes we get to substitute the classes, and that's fantastic because for me, it's the best thing. I get some extra hours free that I can spend on English, and that's a good thing. So revision, well, revision, that's something quite basic, simple, nothing difficult. And in this one with Fly High Ukraine for this very lesson, so I just took the activity for this lesson. You take the board, and on the board you write the letters, the words for the alphabet that you've covered, because every lesson we don't start with the alphabet itself, but we connect the letters to the words. You put them on the board, you put students in teams, they can first sing and finish the words themselves. Like, can you guess the first word, for example? Let's see if there's anyone who can do this. So some people still use teachers' books. We are happy about that. And the ideas are universal. Yes, it's apple. Fantastic. Nice and greatly done, right? And then the next one is fish. Excellent. So you happen to know all the words. So I'm sure you work with Fly High Ukraine. That's great. Yeah, it's kite and horse and panda and car. That's it. So students already know these words. Now, if you think that this might be too challenging, of course, you have flashcards to go. So what I sometimes do, so I write things on the board, then I review the words with the flashcards so they remember the words are active, and then they do the tasks. So sometimes I ask them to do that in their exercise books first. They check in pairs, then they run to the board, they write the words, they stick the flashcards, they wipe the words, they take away the flashcards, we mix them, we stick them, etc. But that's activating what my students know and making them think about letters and words and the connection between them. And that's a quite simple to organize stage, because when working on the teacher's book for Fly High Ukraine series, each time, me personally and my colleagues, we try to think of easy to organize and easy to prepare activities. I don't believe into tasks that take more time to prepare and set up than actually to happen. And that's it. So here you just need board, chalk, and flashcards. So you write the words, you skip some letters, your students fill them in, you review the letters, you review the words, you do some kind of matching, a game activity, and that's it. Okay, then the next stages, well, they're quite obvious. So we started with new language. So first we introduced the words, because the words are easier for students to understand, right? So it's easier to understand, like pen. This is a pen, because what's P letter or P sound? Nothing. Pen is something I can touch, and something that I can easily understand and relate to. So here is my pen, here is the apple. And then we move to something more abstract, like sounds and letters, and that would be another stage, so presenting letters and sounds. And after we've presented this idea, the concept, we try to develop these eyesight skills, so reading skills, working with new words, when we not only learn new words, new letters, the sounds they correspond, but we also teach our students how to recognize the words and then to read the words, not because you know all the letters, but because you know how the word looks and you recognize some of the letters. And that's something quite handy in year one, because it helps you build this literacy. Now, the next two stages go with the book. So you open the book, you work with the exercises. Well, that's easy, obvious. So I'm not going to talk about that one. I'll move to the next one, to the last one. So that will be us actually working with the flashcards to make our students recognize the words. And then we move to the last stage, finishing one. And again, when working on Fly High Ukraine series, we try to include something fun, easy to organize, and also something meaningful in terms of language work. So this time, for this very lesson, those of you who have got the book and those of you who have the access to ePanel, if you want to, you can check. So that's a bingo activity. Quite simple. You choose and write on the board some of the letters students learn. So you can take the last 10 letters, for example, or you can choose the letters that are difficult for your students and the new letters. Then your students each individually choose and fill in the bingo table with the letters. So they'll have different letters in their grids. And then you as a teacher, well, you just dictate the letters. Again, it's up to you. You can dictate letters, words, or sounds. It depends on what you want to practice. Students listen, and when they hear something that they have in their grid, they cross it out. As soon as they cross out all of the letters, they shout bingo, fantastic job. And it's a game, it's fun, it's competitive, but also this allows your students to practice listening skills and their literacy. So they write the letters, they recognize the letters, and they concentrate on the letters. So that's it. Quite simple to organize, can be done as a whole class. Everyone gets a grid and crosses the letters while you are dictating. Can be done in teams. So the teams will be dictating letters to each other, or in pairs, where the pairs will be working with each other. It depends how much time you've got left for this activity. Either way, all of them, number one, let your students practice language and language literacy. That's it. And that was us having a very brief look at a typical lesson plan that comes with your personal assistant, that comes with your Fly High Ukraine course. So that was it. If you open the book, you'll see the lesson plan. So here they are, really detailed with all the stages and step-by-step procedures in them. So it's not like do exercise 1. No, it's tell your students to do this, instruct your students to do that. By the way, level 1 is in Ukrainian. So it's done to get teachers accustomed to the flow. It is easy. It saves a lot of time. You just go straight. So this one comes in Ukrainian. The others one are in English. But we also have Ukrainian stuff inside, like methodological part, etc. It works because if you repeat things again and again and again, you teach, your students forget, you teach, they forget, but somehow, somewhere comes the moment where students finally remember. It happens. Not easy, not at once, but it does. Okay, that was us talking about literacy and personal assistant, and me talking about Fly High Ukraine 1. But literacy doesn't end in year 1. So it would be unfair to tell you, okay, guys, that's it. That's how it happens, unless I showed you Fly High Ukraine 2. And that's what I'm going to do. Level 2, our students know much, much more. But actually, if you open level 2, if some of you are using it in your schools, you know that we start with alphabet again, much more intensive. So you have a whole block of alphabet lessons where students review all the alphabet, done intensively, quickly, but it is important. After the summer holidays, they come to you and they remember nothing or almost nothing. You are lucky if they remember your name. Sometimes they don't, but that's not so important. That's natural. Students forget, and that's a good thing. Generally, forgetting is a very powerful tool. But for us as English teachers, it's important to actually make sure that they do remember it. So we have these alphabet lessons, and again, they come in with personal assistant, as always. Again, that will be me and my colleagues on your desk at hand, ready to answer your questions, because we have prepared super detailed lesson plans. So that's just one plan for one lesson with all the extra activities and extra tasks. And that's more than enough for 40 minutes. So most likely you have to decide what not to take. Or if you have a lot of hours or you have some extra hours, you can transfer the activities there. So that's up to you. That's absolutely fine. And I hope it will work online. And all right, so that's success in primary. And that was us talking briefly about literacy and personal assistant. And yes, so in year 1, a lot of talking, a lot of songs, rhymes, vocabulary, chunks of language, learning the alphabet, building literacy skills in a way the students like literacy and like alphabet and like learning. Year 2, intensive revision of the alphabet and gradually and confidently go into fluent reading and more confident writing. Year 3 is much more focused on developing writing skills. So when you open the book and when you open your personal assistant for level 3, you'll see that there are much more productive activities that require writing. Number 1, writing is easiest. Students' fine motor skills are better developed. They are more ready to that. And if you worked in years 1 and 2 in a good way, so if you had all the lessons, you were not sick, and you did all the job, or you had a good nice team of people who could cover for you when you were not able to be there. So you have this solid foundation. You are ready to go one step higher into confident writing skills and writing production. Now, moving forward, when we talk about success and when we talk about our students, that would be not quite honest to say that School and teaching and education is all about being able to write, to read, to speak, to listen, to know the words, to know the grammar. Because, well, this concept of the new Ukrainian school and what the modern resources show us and what the modern trends in education tell us is all about readiness. And namely, it's about readiness to life. And that's what we're also building in primary school. Because when we look into those life skills and into the program requirements, apart from knowing lots and lots of words and structures and having the skills, our students need to possess lots of other life skills that will ensure that they can work as a part of a group, a part of a team, that they can be successful in their work environment later on when they finish they graduate from school and university and get a job in a good company. So they will be able to react properly to someone's commands, to take commands properly, to listen to each other, to work in a team, to work on their own, to self-correct, to study, etc., etc., etc. And all of these, they are developed and they are founded. So they start in years 1, 2, 3, 4 in the primary classroom, because that's where we spend 15 minutes to put them into pairs or teams, and then they play for 30 seconds, and then we need 5 other minutes to organize them and continue the class flow. And that's terrible, and that's sometimes disappointing and discouraging and really, really difficult, especially if you have a big group of students. But that's where the foundation comes. That's you laying the first bricks to very important skills of your students being able to work in a team, to work with each other. And unless us primary teachers do this, no one else can do that, because the older students get, unless this foundation is built, the more difficult it will be to break the system, because it becomes a system. Me being alone, me not listening to others, me responding only to the teacher and ignoring the peers. So me reacting only when the boss tells me something and ignoring the colleagues. And that's important. So all of these are developed throughout all the pages of Fly High Ukraine with the help of your personal assistant, and with the help of your resource. But also in Fly High Ukraine, starting from level 2, we have a very important section that's called real life skills. In this section, we deal with real life moments like reading books, going to a library, or navigating the town, recognizing the signs, and then so understanding the information they possess. Or we also dive into the digital world and learn these gadgets and their functions and how they can be used in our everyday life. And we also have lots and lots of different life skills developed throughout the levels 2, 3, and then 4 with Fly High Ukraine, where it all piles up and students learn to manage the time, to write their own checklists, and that's also important, along with them being aware of Ukraine, the importance of their country, some different cultural aspects, etc., etc., etc. And all of that is realized through a personal assistant, because while working on the course, we sat down, it took us a lot of time, and we spent this time to prepare each and every lesson so that it develops language skills, builds literacy, but also teaches all of the 21st century skills and makes sure that your students will be successful in their life later on. And we spend this time to have a really, really quality resource so that you don't have to spend that time yourself, and you don't need to spend half a day to prepare one fantastic lesson, but you take your personal assistant, like take me and my colleagues, open it up, and then it's all in there, all ready for you, and you just pick things that you like. Because that's how the lesson plan for every single lesson looks. And if you find a bad lesson plan, you can write about that to me, because honestly, I'm not ashamed for any one of them, and all of them are really, really nice. Apart from that, your personal assistant also offers you the blog called Padmaisternya, and there you have some methodological articles on different aspects of language teaching, where we think and provide some ideas on how to work with classroom management, or how to work with games and vocab presentation. And each level has quite a huge number of these. So that's a regular block in the teacher's book in your personal assistant. And they are present in level 3, so not all of them are designed yet, because level 3 teacher's book is under design. So students' book, I'm not sure if it's in Ukraine or on the way to Ukraine from the publishing house, but level 3 teacher's book is in design. And that's your personal assistant. That's something we did to make sure that you personally don't need to do that. That's ready for you. And I do hope that you'll use that, because, well, why do the work that has already been done for you? And that's us. And those are just 3 tiny aspects that are really important for me when choosing a resource for primary school, because it's important to make sure that I have the vocabulary and literacy, and that I prepare my students not only to know the words, but also to function successfully in a society. And it's important for me that I don't spend hours to prepare one lesson, but I can spend 15 minutes, look through the plan, highlight the things I will be doing, and have it ready and go and teach. And the doors here, well, they are symbolic, of course, as everything else, because we as teachers, we open the endless number of doors which are opportunities for our students. And yes, we can't do everything, and we can't educate them alone. So that's a collaborative effort with parents, with other colleagues, done together. But we do make an impact. And the teachers do change the world. So that's up to us.